Four companies are preparing to spend as much as $720 billion this year, primarily on the infrastructure behind artificial intelligence. That number is not staying inside a server rack. It is competing for the memory in your next laptop, the electricity on your local grid, and the equipment needed to build both. Apple has already raised one entry-level laptop by $100. Residential electricity prices are climbing, and Federal Reserve officials now say strong AI demand is adding pressure to technology prices and power bills. This is not a literal $720 billion invoice. AI is not the only force raising prices, but the build-out has become large enough to change what companies can buy, what utilities must build, and what the Fed has to watch. Here's how the AI bill reaches your wallet. Start with what the $720 billion means. It is a high-end estimate assembled from the capital spending plans of four public companies. Amazon planned roughly $200 billion. Alphabet and Microsoft were each around $190 billion. Meta gave a range that reached roughly $145 billion. These are plans, not final receipts. They are global, and not every dollar is labeled AI. But the largest destination is the physical stack that makes AI possible. Land, data centers, advanced processors, memory, networking, cooling, transformers, power contracts, and the construction crews that connect everything. This matters because four buyers are not shopping in isolation. They are placing enormous orders into many of the same supply chains at the same time. When demand jumps faster than factories, power plants, or grid connections can expand, the scarce inputs get more expensive. The first bill lands with the companies building the infrastructure. The next bill moves outward. The fastest route from an AI data center to a store shelf runs through memory. AI servers consume specialized high-value memory alongside conventional dynamic memory and storage. Manufacturers have shifted capacity toward those more profitable orders. That leaves device makers competing for tighter supplies. Industry tracker TrendForce said dynamic memory prices nearly doubled in the first quarter of 2026, then projected another increase of more than half in the second quarter. Apple said it had never seen component prices rise this quickly. Its lowest-priced MacBook moved from $599 to $699. One MacBook Pro configuration rose from about $1,700 to about $2,000. An iPad Air configuration jumped from $599 to $749. Other computer and console makers have raised prices too. You are not paying for a chatbot when you buy those devices. You are paying inside a supply chain that has decided AI servers get first call on scarce memory. The slower route runs through electricity. A large data center can request the power of a small city, and that demand rarely arrives next to an idle power plant with a finished transmission line. Utilities may need new generation, substations, transformers, and grid connections. Who pays depends on local regulation and the agreement with the data center. But the Dallas Fed warns that existing customers can be left carrying part of the expansion cost. Its plausible scenarios put the data center effect on annual inflation in 2030 between a few hundredths and about 1/10 of a percentage point. That sounds small until it sits on top of every other source of inflation. The Energy Information Administration projects the average residential electricity price rising from 17.3 cents per kilowatt hour in 2025 to 18.3 cents in 2026. That forecast does not blame the full increase on AI. Microsoft offers another measure of scale. It reported total emissions up 25% in 1 year, driven primarily by data center expansion and a change in how it counted renewable certificates. The infrastructure is physical, and so are its costs. Now connect those prices to the Federal Reserve. In May, the Consumer Price Index was up 4.2% from a year earlier. Electricity was up 5.9%. The Fed uses a different inflation measure, but it sees the same problem. Its June meeting minutes said AI demand was contributing to higher core goods prices, and many officials expected pressure on technology products and electricity to continue. The Fed held its policy rate between 3.5% and 3.75%. It did not promise a hike. Some officials described scenarios where inflation fades and rates can eventually fall. Others said persistent pressure from AI demand, tariffs, or energy could require firmer policy. That distinction matters. The Fed does not set your mortgage or auto loan rate directly, but its policy shapes borrowing conditions across the economy. If AI keeps demand running ahead of supply, its wallet effect can extend beyond devices and power into the price of credit. So is this a temporary shock or a structural bill? For memory, the answer may be more temporary. High prices encourage manufacturers to expand capacity. Device demand can weaken. AI buyers can redesign systems to use chips more efficiently. But factories take time to build, and the current squeeze is already in retail prices. Electricity moves on a different clock. A new transformer, transmission line, or power plant can serve customers for decades. The financing decision made today can remain in utility rates long after one generation of AI chips is obsolete. Even here, the outcome is not automatic. The Energy Information Administration expects average wholesale electricity prices this summer to be lower than last year because natural gas is cheaper and several regions added generation. Local retail bills can rise while national wholesale prices fall. That is why the honest answer is a range, not a slogan. AI is creating real pressure, but the final bill depends on capacity, location, regulation, and who is required to pay for the connection. There's also a powerful countercase. AI investment can raise prices during the build-out and still lower costs later. The Fed minutes describe that two-clock economy. Today, companies compete for equipment, electricity, and skilled labor. Over time, successful AI tools could help workers produce more, reduce waste, improve logistics, and expand the economy's supply. More supply is normally disinflationary. The problem is timing. A data center begins buying concrete, chips, and power. Before the software running inside it proves that it can make the broader economy more efficient. Consumers can feel the construction bill before they receive the productivity dividend. And the dividend is not guaranteed to equal the spending. The right question is not whether AI is inflationary or deflationary forever. It is which force is stronger now, how quickly supply catches up, and whether productivity arrives before the infrastructure costs become embedded. 4 numbers will show which side is winning. First, watch whether the 4 hyperscalers actually spend near $720 billion or revise those plans. Second, watch memory prices and the list prices of ordinary devices. Falling chip prices should break the fastest link to your wallet. Third, watch residential electricity forecasts and local utility rate cases, especially whether data center operators pay for their own grid connections. Fourth, watch core goods inflation and the language in Fed minutes. One monthly report cannot isolate AI, but a persistent pattern across technology goods, electricity, and business investment is harder to dismiss. Do not treat any one number as a trading signal or a promise about rates. Treat them as checkpoints in a physical supply chain. The story changes when capacity catches demand, customers stop absorbing higher prices, or productivity begins lowering costs elsewhere. The $720 billion is not your invoice, it is the size of the demand shock entering the system. The first payments buy servers, memory, buildings, and power. The next round appears in a laptop price, a utility forecast, or a harder inflation decision. Some of that pressure may fade as factories and grids expand. Some may be repaid through better productivity. But the build-out is already large enough that the Federal Reserve is discussing it in the same record used to explain interest rate policy. That is the real headline. AI is no longer only changing software. It is changing the price of the physical economy around it. Subscribe to Yapnetic. Talk is cheap. Numbers aren't.